Jacob's Well, a popular swimming hole near Wimberley, will remain closed to swimmers for the foreseeable future.
And Hayes County officials say water conditions are not safe for swimming. The spring-fed well stopped flowing in July for only the fourth time in history, and now
the moment the underwater drone slipped beneath the surface of Jacob's Well, a deceptively tranquil spring nestled in the hill country of Texas, the entire expedition team held their breath. This was no ordinary dive. While Jacob's Well had long been known as one of the most dangerous underwater cave systems in the United States, what lay hidden in its shadowy depths had never fully been uncovered until now. The drone, equipped with high-resolution cameras and sonar mapping technology, began its descent into the dark, watery labyrinth. What it captured during that eerie journey stunned not only the team overseeing the mission, but, in a short time, the world itself. Before we start, hit the like and subscribe buttons for more exclusive news. Jacob's Well has always held a mystique, its crystal-clear surface luring swimmers and divers with the illusion of calm masks a deadly winding system of submerged caverns. The well is a perennial spring that emerges from the bed of Cypress Creek, but beneath it lies an extensive series of vertical and horizontal passages, many of which are narrow, pitch black, and dangerously unstable. Numerous divers have lost their lives exploring it. Despite this, or perhaps because of it, the well has become a subject of fascination for both thrill seekers and scientists. Over the decades, attempts have been made to map its full extent, but much of the system remains undocumented, largely due to the extreme risks involved in exploring such a treacherous environment. The underwater drone, nicknamed Nautilus, had been specially designed to navigate tight and unstable spaces. It was only slightly larger than a basketball, but packed with advanced navigation algorithms, pressure-resistant materials, and a suite of sensory equipment that would allow it to probe areas unreachable by human divers. The mission was straightforward on paper: map uncharted corridors and capture video footage, but nothing could have prepared the team for what Nautilus would ultimately uncover. As the drone maneuvered deeper into the submerged caverns, the light from the surface quickly vanished, replaced by an almost tangible darkness. Sonar readings showed that the tunnels were even narrower and more complex than anticipated, snaking down in irregular patterns that defied logical structure. Some walls appeared organic in nature, more like living tissue than limestone, though this was initially dismissed as the result of mineral buildup or sonar artifacts. Yet, as the drone ventured farther into the cave system, these anomalies became more frequent. Patterns began to emerge on the walls, ridges and indentations arranged in ways that seemed almost deliberate. The data team flagged it as possibly geological, but even the most seasoned geologists reviewing the footage found themselves grasping for rational explanations. Then came the moment that changed everything. Approximately 1,300 feet into the system, Nautilus entered a chamber that had never been seen before. The passage had narrowed to the point where most divers would never have risked squeezing through, but the drone passed easily. It emerged into a vast open space far larger than any chamber previously documented in Jacob's Well. Visibility was poor, but the onboard lights illuminated towering columns that rose from the floor like cathedral pillars. The sonar returned irregular shapes scattered around the chamber floor, some too symmetrical to be natural rock formations. The camera panned slowly, and that's when the first truly unexplainable image came into frame. Lying motionless at the base of one of the columns was what appeared to be a structure, an object shaped like a perfect hexagon, its surface covered in strange markings. They were not scratches or natural fissures, but patterns, as if etched with intent. Some resembled mathematical symbols, others were completely alien. The object did not match any known geological formation. It reflected light faintly, almost metallically, and pulsed subtly in time with the sonar waves. That pulse created interference on the drone's instruments, but it also caused something else, an oscillation, a resonance that disrupted both the visual feed and the drone's telemetry. The interference intensified as the drone moved closer. Its cameras glitched, and a low-frequency hum began to fill the control room above ground, though there was no logical source for such a sound. Suddenly, the entire system went offline for 7 seconds. 7 agonizing seconds during which the team had no contact with the drone. When the feed returned, the camera showed a distorted image of the chamber. The once stationary object was now upright. Whether it had moved or had always been vertical was unclear, but its orientation had changed, and the hum was now louder, penetrating even the concrete walls of the base station above the well. A deep unease gripped everyone in the room. Though the object remained still, there was a growing sense that it was not inert. The surrounding water, too, appeared different. Particulate matter floated in strange patterns, swirling around the object with unnatural precision. And then, on the edge of the frame, movement, something darting just beyond the range of the lights. The team froze. Rewind and zoom revealed little more than a blur, but it was unmistakably there, something alive. It had moved quickly with purpose and left a faint trail of bioluminescence in its wake. More movements followed, some larger, others impossibly fast. The drone's sensors picked up fluctuations in pressure and temperature inconsistent with the stable environment expected at that depth. Then came the audio feed, static at first, then a rhythmic clicking, growing louder and more complex. It was not random. Audio specialists would later analyze it and confirm that it exhibited patterns that suggested language, or at the very least, structured communication. With pressure mounting, the team debated recalling the drone, but Nautilus was still transmitting. Against protocol, they decided to press deeper into the chamber. The drone advanced slowly, past the metallic object, toward the source of the clicking. Lights revealed more structures, walls etched with the same geometric patterns, and niches in the rock that seemed almost like alcoves. Inside one was something unmistakably out of place, a humanoid shape. Not a diver, not a skeleton, but something completely different. It was curled into a fetal position, covered in a film of mineral deposits, yet strangely preserved. The proportions were subtly wrong, arms too long, skull elongated, and eyes, even in the degraded footage, disturbingly large. As the drone approached the figure, everything changed. The lights flickered, then failed entirely. Sonar went blank. The hum reached a deafening pitch before abruptly cutting out. The last image captured by Nautilus before the connection was lost completely showed the figure beginning to unfurl. Not collapse, not shift due to current, but move with intent. The image lasted a fraction of a second. Then the screen went black. The drone was never recovered. In the days that followed, news of the expedition leaked to the public, and with it, the chilling footage. Experts across disciplines weighed in. Geologists, biologists, cryptographers, even physicists. None could explain what had been seen. The cave chamber's apparent depth, scale, and the objects within seemed to defy natural formation. The strange pulsating object's ability to interfere with electronics and possibly sound frequencies sparked theories ranging from ancient technology to non-terrestrial origins. The humanoid figure's existence in such an environment was beyond comprehension. It wasn't just the shape, it was the context. Nothing biological should be able to survive at that depth for any period of time, let alone seemingly await discovery in such a manner. The implications were staggering. If the chamber had indeed remained sealed and untouched for millennia, then the artifacts and entities within could predate human civilization. The symbols on the structures bore no resemblance to known languages or iconography, and yet patterns hinted at knowledge, mathematics, possibly even astronomy. Could it be evidence of a forgotten species, one that developed independently, perhaps subterranean in nature? Or was it something even more unfathomable? An intrusion into our world from a parallel or nonlinear dimension? The terror lay not just in the visuals, but in the implications. If something was living in the depths of Jacob's Well, hidden in a chamber that no one had ever reached before, how many other such places existed across the globe? Unmapped, undisturbed, and potentially occupied. What if the object wasn't simply there, but had been placed, waiting? And most disturbing of all, what had triggered its change in behavior? Was the drone's presence a catalyst? Or had the moment simply come? No attempt has been made since to return to that chamber. The well has been unofficially closed for all exploratory missions. The footage that escaped into the world continues to be dissected, frame by experts and amateurs alike. Some believe it was a warning. Others see it as a discovery that challenges the foundations of everything we understand about Earth's history and biology. But the one universal reaction is fear, a deep primal terror rooted not in superstition, but in the undeniable feeling that something was found in the dark that was never meant to be uncovered. After the last transmission from Nautilus faded into static, a heavy silence settled over the control room. No one spoke for a long while. The implications of what they had just witnessed were too vast, too bizarre to process immediately. In the silence, an undercurrent of dread began to take root, not just because of what they had seen, but because of the questions it raised. Where did that chamber come from? Why did it contain something so alien? And more unsettling still, was it truly isolated, or was it part of something larger? The research team initially believed Jacob's Well to be an enclosed cave system. Its vertical shafts and narrow tunnels, dangerous as they were, had always seemed like natural formations. But the newly discovered chamber suggested architecture. The perfect symmetry of the walls, the etched symbols, and the placement of the strange metallic structure all bore the hallmarks of design, not coincidence. The idea that intelligent beings, whatever their nature, had constructed something so far underground and so precisely forced a reassessment of what such subterranean environments might hide globally. After the footage was analyzed, scientists noted that the chamber seemed geologically inconsistent with the rest of the well. The rock type shifted subtly. The mineral composition didn't match surface samples taken from nearby walls. Even more baffling was the temperature variation. Thermal readings showed heat radiating from parts of the chamber, as though a residual energy source lingered. This was in sharp contrast to the expected cold stillness of deep underwater cave systems. These heat signatures were not uniform either. They emanated specifically from the metallic object and from parts of the chamber floor, forming lines and intersections, as if the room itself functioned as a device or mechanism. These discoveries brought attention from beyond geological and biological communities. Experts in theoretical physics, particularly those studying high-energy fields and quantum resonance, began to pore over the data. What they found was not conclusive, but deeply provocative. The frequencies generated by the object and the hum recorded in the final minutes of Nautilus's feed bore similarity to hypothesized resonance patterns that could disrupt space-time fabric, concepts usually limited to particle accelerators or the edges of black hole theory. Though speculative, it opened the door to a chilling possibility. The object may not have been from Earth at all, or worse, not from this reality. One physicist remarked that the rhythmic pulses seen in the video resembled an advanced communication signal, not the kind designed for humans to receive, but something internal, like a machine relaying instructions across dimensions. If the object was dormant when discovered, what had reactivated it? Could the drone's presence alone have triggered a reawakening, or had it been watching, waiting for a signal that was never meant to be intercepted by us? Meanwhile, deep-sea biologists reviewed the blurred footage of the moving life forms. Though too indistinct for species identification, the footage still offered clues. The speed and direction of the creature's movement defied known aquatic motion mechanics. It moved against natural currents with remarkable precision. The trail of bioluminescence it left was particularly odd. Instead of the organic glow seen in deep-sea jellyfish or plankton, the luminescence had a pattern. Flashes of light and dark that repeated in a cycle. Analysts discovered these cycles mirrored prime number sequences. No organism in the natural world had ever been observed producing such mathematically structured light. This raised a disturbing theory. What if these were not biological creatures in the way we understand, but synthetic organic hybrids? Machines fused with living tissue operating autonomously in complete darkness, possibly for thousands of years. Their existence suggested design, purpose, and most troubling of all, surveillance. Were they protecting something? Maintaining it? Or perhaps they were simply waiting, executing instructions from an intelligence no longer present, or still buried even deeper within the Earth? Linguists and cryptographers attempted to decode the symbols etched onto the hexagonal structure and the chamber walls. Early attempts to align them with ancient human scripts failed. The symbols bore no resemblance to Sumerian, Egyptian, or any proto-language. Yet when plotted graphically, patterns emerged. Many formed complex fractals, geometric figures that repeat at every scale. Others mirrored star charts, not from Earth's current sky, but extrapolated to stellar positions from tens of thousands of years ago. It was as if whoever created them had been documenting the galaxy from a fixed position deep underground, immune to time, cataloging movements that only advanced astronomical models could replicate. One configuration of symbols appeared to resemble a map, not a map of the cave or the local terrain, but something far larger, more abstract. Using mathematical analysis, a few researchers proposed that it might depict a network, a global one, composed of other chambers, possibly connected through natural fault lines, underground water systems, or even artificial tunnels that span beneath the continents. If true, Jacob's Well might not be unique. It could be one node in an ancient network that circumnavigates the planet, hidden just beneath our feet. The revelation sparked global curiosity, and within days, independent researchers and explorers began examining similar cave systems and deep wells around the world. In regions like the Yucatan Peninsula, the Blue Hole in Belize, and the cenotes of Mexico, expeditions were launched. Though most found only standard geological formations, one team in Siberia reported sonar interference eerily similar to that experienced by the Nautilus team. They had been scanning a frozen remote lake when their equipment malfunctioned. When it returned online, they reported a brief glimpse of glowing shapes moving beneath the ice. Government officials sealed off the area shortly afterward. Public reaction to these events was turbulent. Online forums exploded with theories. Some saw it as evidence of alien visitation in Earth's distant past, an artifact of an advanced species that had either seeded life or monitored it silently from the depths. Others believed it was terrestrial but non-human, perhaps an ancient civilization that had taken to the underworld during cataclysmic events and never re-emerged. Fringe theorists proposed interdimensional beings, time travelers, or even manifestations of Earth's own consciousness, given form through unknown geological or psychic energies. Amid the chaos, a curious psychological phenomenon emerged. People who had watched the final footage, particularly the last image before the blackout, reported persistent dreams. The dreams were remarkably similar across individuals: vast dark chambers filled with soundless humming, walls that breathed, an overwhelming presence watching from unseen corners. Some described descending spirals of light and incomprehensible languages whispered through water. Sleep researchers took note when multiple cases presented symptoms resembling post-traumatic stress disorder, despite having only viewed the events secondhand. More concerning were those who claimed the dreams compelled them to visit water, lakes, rivers, wells, any natural source. A few were found standing knee-deep in icy water in the middle of the night, unresponsive. The phenomenon was dubbed the deep calling, and while dismissed by mainstream scientists, it drew the attention of psychologists who theorized that the footage had tapped into a deeply buried archetype, perhaps a racial memory or a primal fear encoded in human evolution. Governments responded by clamping down on access to deep cave systems. Funding was quietly redirected, and records of Jacob's Well were altered. The official stance was that the footage had been fabricated, an elaborate hoax. Yet those who had seen the original video, especially the unedited stream, knew the truth. They spoke of things that couldn't be faked: the raw fear in the control room, the seismic disturbances recorded afterward, the way birds and insects fled the area in the days following. Satellite imagery showed subtle shifts in topography near the well, suggesting movement underground. Tremors were recorded, not large enough to trigger concern on mainstream earthquake charts, but strangely rhythmic, pulses at 17-minute intervals for almost 3 days. Seismologists called it an anomaly, but whispers in the scientific community hinted at something else: a signal, perhaps, or a mechanism slowly activating after centuries of dormancy. A classified team returned to the site several weeks later. Armed with more robust military-grade submersibles, they attempted to relocate the chamber. What they found shocked even them. The narrow passage through which Nautilus had entered no longer existed. The walls had shifted. Stone now sealed what was once an opening. The drone's physical beacon, which should have remained pinging, was completely gone. No trace of the chamber remained, only faint electromagnetic residue. This led to a terrifying hypothesis. What if the chamber wasn't anchored in our reality? What if its appearance was temporary, a thinning between dimensions, a localized rift that opened only under specific circumstances? Pressure, vibration, perhaps even intention? That would mean the chamber and its contents might appear again elsewhere. Or worse, it might be able to choose when and where to manifest. With this realization, covert monitoring systems were installed at dozens of similar wells and sinkholes across the world. Advanced sensor arrays, listening devices, and drones were deployed quietly, without fanfare. Yet even with the most sophisticated equipment, nothing matching the Jacob's Well phenomenon has been detected again, at least not publicly. Still, anomalies persist. In Papua New Guinea, divers exploring a newly collapsed sinkhole reported hearing chanting underwater, though none could explain its source. In South America, hikers near a collapsed cave network described strange lights emanating from beneath the earth and animals behaving erratically. Even more disturbing were the reports from fishermen in Norway, who saw a metallic object rise briefly from the fjord waters and then vanish without a trace. Every report, no matter how scattered, contained echoes of what had been captured that day beneath Jacob's Well. If you liked this video, please give it a like and subscribe to our channel. Also, could you leave your comments below and tell us, what are your thoughts on what the drone found? What do you think happens next? We want to hear from you. Thank you for watching and see you next time.